when we started this podcast, I thought, how many sessions could we really do? And how much is there really to talk about? And I just keep adding different ideas to my list.
What will you do when your money works for you? Welcome to the TechGirl Financial Podcast with your hosts, Victor and Kim Gaxiola. From the home office in California, here is Victor and Kim.
Welcome back to the TechGirl Financial Podcast, Kim. We're back and live for season 2.
Yes, I've been missing this.
Yeah, it's been a little while, but we had a good summer. And
we did.
Hopefully everybody who's been listening also had a great summer, and we're excited about the return of the podcast just because we have got so much in store for the second season. We're looking at changing up the format to go into deeper dives in specific areas of focus. And, in the first season was, just trying things out, doing a few topics. We had the Breaking Money Silence series. We talked a little bit about insurance. We also had some talk about financial literacy with the youth. And so looking at the second season, one of the areas that we want to focus on is the world of financial services. And very specifically, all the different nuanced areas where you have to make financial decisions. And those include whether you're buying a home, what are the kinds of questions you may have and how you work with a real estate agent, or if you need to get lending, working with a mortgage broker or someone that can help you with that. And then on our side, and especially on the financial service side, it's the people that you partner with.
Right, like your CPA or your estate planning attorney. I like to think of myself as a quarterback oftentimes, and the team is not complete without the CPA and the estate planning attorney. So we're all on the same side of the table, and ultimately, I feel like the value a client has is exponential when you have all the team players at the same table.
Well, in a lot of the financial software that we work with, especially ask a lot of questions where some of that data and information, whether it's a document or whether it's the actual data itself, is going to come by working with other professionals. And so it gives you an opportunity to get a full composite on the people's financial picture. And it helps them help them make better decisions.
Right. So I'm excited to be here this season. It'll be fun to, talk about those things. Why I may not be the best person to say why exactly you need a trust. I mean, I will give you the nuts and bolts, the basics. But when I hear attorneys speaking about it, all the things that come up in their mind of why you need a trust are really important. Mm-hmm. And same goes, when you're filing your taxes, there may be something overlooked if you don't have a CPA and you've got multiple things going on in your life when it comes to making money.
Well, and I like your quarterback analogy because I think that's a good way of putting it from the standpoint that you do want to collaborate with these other professionals. And this is one of the areas that really works well. I think it's one of the first questions when you start working with someone new is to find out, do they have a CPA or do they have an attorney that they work with to help them with a will or a trust, or did they have that documentation? Because all of it is, is part of that conversation when you look at developing, their financial roadmaps.
Right. And I like working on a team. It's fun.
Hey, you like working with me, I hope. So in addition to having these professionals join us on the show, one thing that we know is going to happen in the fall season is that there are a number of different industry conferences and conversations that are taking place. And so I'll be participating, in one of them called Wealth Stack, which is in Arizona, with a number of other financial advisors that are leading, in the world of technology and when it comes to using technology in their practice. And then we will have the annual conference that we go to for Cambridge, which will give us an opportunity and insights to see what's happening in the industry in general.
Right. I can't remember where it was. I was listening to something in leadership, and it's so important to surround yourself with others in your field that do what you do and do something similar to you, because it brings everybody up. Mm-hmm. And I think if I was operating on a little island by myself and my clients, I would not be as good as I am because I collaborate with my peers and share these ideas.
Right. Well, and we have the luxury of being able to work together. So that allows us opportunities to have conversations about things that are happening, in this space or topical that's happening in the news. And we have conversations and such, but sometimes you want to broaden that audience, right? To
Absolutely.
just get an understanding of whether or not other people are digesting this information in the same way. And so one thing that I do love about this industry is that it can be extremely collaborative in sharing, best practices about how they're approaching certain challenges and how they're talking to their clients about certain things. And so one of the things that I think has been important for me and for you as well as it relates to developing this podcast was to share a lot of this information and the things and the insights that we see. And this gives us a platform to be able to share it to a much wider audience.
Right. And it was actually somebody who approached me at Cambridge because they were listening to our podcast in the past to have me come and speak to the financial administrative professionals around the country and talk to them a little bit about our Building Your Roadmap webinar that we did.
Right.
And so it is fun to see the ideas spreading because in the end, I love to educate and I love to give people the information they need to make knowledgeable decisions.
Right.
That's what motivates me every day.
Yeah. And, since the summer, we haven't had the program, but there's been certainly things that have been happening, in the financial markets over the course of the summer leading into the fall season and such. And, the big question mark is whether or not sometimes the podcast is going to be recorded, weeks before it actually gets released. And so it's not necessarily the best format as it relates to topical things. That's what our social media platforms are really good for, especially Twitter, which is almost daily. We now have a new Instagram account, which we're using, as well as we've always had Facebook and LinkedIn. So, we encourage those of you who are listening to connect with us on these various platforms because you're more likely to get the more topical information there. But let's talk a little bit about the financial markets just because they have gone through quite a bit of volatility. So, what have you been telling clients?
So let me just take it a step back because that reminds me of the volatility that we had in the past when we weren't able to use social media. And now that we are able to use social media, how much easier it is for me to get that information out there. And oftentimes I don't have a one-line answer for anyone because everything varies. But the fact that I can post on Facebook or tweet something that says, we are analyzing the current situation. If you have serious concerns, please call me. But we will have more information out to you soon in a newsletter or what have you. But just being able to tell them, I hear what's going on. I'm acknowledging this information is scary and I am figuring out what to do next in preparation for that. That helps at least me know that I have gotten that out there. So if you're listening to me and you're thinking about what's going on in the market, always know that, before you call me, you can look on social media and you'll probably find something that I've said if it happens to be a really big news breaking item.
Right. And you talk about news breaking because I think one thing that's important to distinguish here is, and we've said this before, is news and things that are interesting versus what's really matters and is important to the clients that we serve. And what I mean is, the media is, and this is where I get on my soapbox, it's that whole adage of if it bleeds, it leads. And they're meant to shock you. If you turn on CNBC, if you watch any of the news channels and Bloomberg, any of them that are reporting on the financial services world or the world economy, things are really just, it's a dumpster fire all the time.
It is.
The world is falling apart.
And the stock market, even though it is for long-term holdings, can be very reactionary in the short term. And so the stock market does bounce up and down based on current headlines. But when you pull back and take that view for the 5, 10, 15-year range, you notice that something that happened in 2008, 2009 doesn't seem like such a big deal to me today, even though it was huge back then. So you have to have that big picture mentality. Don't overreact about something.
Right.
Think logically, because in the end, does it really matter if your retirement goal is 10, 15, 20 years from now, or if you have all the emergency reserves that we're planning for?
Yeah. Well, the thing that pushed me over the edge was the other day, I think the Dow had a dip of about 800 points. And somebody came on Twitter and basically said, look, this is the fourth largest decline in the Dow in history. Like the fourth.
Yeah.
Right? And then a lot of people started calling out and saying, well, wait a second. First of all, it's the Dow, right? Which is what? These 30 industrial stocks, which are meant to be an index for the entire market.
Right.
And it's, weighted. It's not a real reflection, in my view. And I should say, in my view, it's not a real reflection of where we are as an economy and the growth prospects, right?
Right.
So they were saying, okay, it's the fourth largest single point drop in history. And then people started saying, well, that doesn't matter. I mean, it's trading at 25,000. What is it on a percentage basis? Well, on a percentage basis, it was the 342nd largest drop in the market. And this is a perfect example of you need to understand the context of this information in order for you to really, before you put any real gray hair, grow any gray hair.
So true.
Right?
I know. Maybe that's an idea, although I think we'd put everybody to sleep, is a lesson on statistics. Because when you say, oh my gosh, it was an 800-point drop day, but then you notice that when you do the math, it was like a 2% or, I think it was something along that line, because the Dow was 26,000, right? And I remember 10 years ago or 9 years ago in 2009, that was 10 years ago, the Dow reached 9,500. And now we're at somewhere around 26,000. So it's crazy. I mean, you have to think of those numbers and understand what the percentage drop was, because then you can then you're comparing more apples to apples.
Yeah, and you also have to start asking yourselves, what is it that's driving it, and how does it impact me? I mean, if we're talking about being driven by foreign stocks or trade or something, I mean, how much real exposure might you actually have in that, so that even if you were in any way participating in that drop, guess what? It bounces back. It goes back and forth. I guess the bottom line is, look, you got to understand the context of these things taking place. And the second thing is, hold on to that long-term view. The day-to-day fluctuations probably have zero, if not very little, bearing in you being able to reach your goals in retirement, especially if that retirement is 20, 30 years away.
Right. And the other factor is you have to, if you are going to listen to the news, you have to distinguish when they are talking about short-term trading ideas versus long-term money, because they don't do it that often. But my ear is always pegged to the ground listening for that. Is this a short-term idea or a long-term idea? And you will find that a lot of times what they are talking about are short-term things that don't apply.
Mm-hmm. And if you really are losing sleep or you just can't rest, as always, call us, contact us, and we'll talk to you. Right? We love talking to you.
Yeah, that's the best part of the job.
So don't hesitate. So if those headlines have got you stressed, just pick up the phone or send us a message. You can always find the contact us on our website.
That's right.
So Kim, you know what September is?
What?
September is Life Insurance Awareness Month.
Oh, yeah, that was a trick question. I was supposed to answer it right. I forgot about that.
No, it was a trick question, actually, because I actually wanted to make a big deal about the fact that it is Life Insurance Awareness Month, which is really asking the question, for those of you that have or don't have a life insurance policy, why not? If you don't have one, and if you have one, when was the last time you had it reviewed?
That's right. That's so important to do in terms of looking at your overall picture, because, this is your foundation. We do not plan for the unexpected enough.
That's true. And if you recall, the last podcast that we did at the first season was what if? It's
Right.
asking like, what if I don't wake up? What if I lose my job? What if I get disabled? So I know that, people have better things to think about than their life insurance. And that's really why you have us, right? So we think about the things you don't want to think about.
Right. And this is a good time to be thinking about it, because one of the things that probably passes by your desk or your email is at your company in October. It's usually open enrollment time. So you are probably getting paperwork that is showing you how much of all these company benefits you have. And don't just brush them off the side of your table or accept what you have as your insurance, but actually really review it this year.
That's right. And so what we're recommending to our clients is to do a life insurance review. They should do this annually, quite honestly. And really to check a few things, and especially if they're overpaying. Because you might be either overpaying for the insurance that you have, or you can get more coverage, and continue with the same payments.
Yeah, you can do that. There's so many things to do. When we think about different life phases that you're in, you typically purchase insurance when you're young to protect your kids and your family. And then as you age and your kids may be fully functional on their own, you don't need to protect them as much, but perhaps you want to do something to help yourself, as well as you start thinking about long-term care and that idea. So there's a lot of things we can do with insurance policies to change the strategy from, a policy where protection is the most important thing to thinking about the future.
That's correct. And, it's, as you mentioned, it's pretty common to find that, some people's life insurance needs may have changed since they originally got their policies. And, if we do a review, it's likely we might be able to find some hidden cost savings or more competitive quotes for the same amount of coverage. And so what we're offering in the month of September, is it being Life Insurance Awareness Month, is an opportunity to do a review. Let's check it out. Let's make sure you're protected. Let's make sure that you and your little ones and everybody you love is going to be happy. Not if you die, but if you die, they'll be happy that they'll be okay.
Financially, that is.
That's right. I don't know how to say that in a nice way, right? But I think everybody understands what I'm saying here. So if you're curious to schedule a life insurance review appointment, there is going to be a special link on this actual show notes of the podcast. You can click that, schedule an appointment. You're going to probably talk to me, and I'm fun. So I'll be able to share with you exactly, what we can take a look at your insurance policies and make sure you're all set up.
That's right. And make sure, also your beneficiaries are right on those policies as well. So lots of things that we can uncover during that process. And it's important to have the clear picture.
And, and then you can say, you can post on your social media that, it's Life Insurance Awareness Month and you were aware and you took care of it. And so you can celebrate, do a victory lap that you're doing something about it.
Right.
All right. So season 2 of the podcast, like I said, new format, new guests, new fun, new topics. Listen, as always, and we want to keep this interactive, is please share with us if there's a topic or an area of discussion you'd like us to explore, or if there's somebody you'd like us to talk to. We'd be happy to do it. Just use hashtag AskTGF, or you can also go to the website and click Ask a Question or Contact Us. Either way, we're pretty open, or you can send me an email at victor@techgirlfinancial.com. Let us know what you'd like to hear, who you'd like to hear on the show. We'll bring them on.
That sounds good.
Sounds good. Kim's got a smile on her face. She's excited about season 2.
I am.
Yeah.
I know when you started this whole podcast thing, I was like, don't know about this, but I've come to enjoy this.
Yeah. I think you like having the big microphone and listening to your voice on Spotify and
that
Apple
is true.
Podcasts.
That is true. And that I have this almost like library that we can refer people to when they have a topic that perhaps we've already had a discussion about.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And so they'll have more after season 2.
They sure will.
So thank you so much for listening, and we look forward to our next show and hearing from you. Don't forget to put in a review, ask us a question, comments, questions, concerns, and ideas. Use hashtag AskTGF.
Thanks for listening.
And remember, what will you do
when your money works for you?
I love that. What will you do when your money works for you? All right, thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
If you have questions, comments, or suggestions for future shows, please send an email to victor@techgirlfinancial.com or join the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag AskTGF. We also encourage you to follow us on the TechGirl Financial page on Facebook and connect with us on LinkedIn.
Securities offered through registered representatives of Cambridge Investment Research, Inc., a broker-dealer member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Cambridge Investment Research Advisors, a registered investment advisor. TechGirl Financial and Cambridge Investment Research, Inc. are not affiliated companies.